All right. So let's get into it. Something I wanted to talk about was this explosive meeting, I guess, between Elon and Rubio. And we had speculated in past podcasts that, maybe Elon's time in the Trump administration would be fairly limited because he's just so uh, out there and just, uh, you know, everybody seems to be getting kind of annoyed with him. But I do believe this might be the beginning of the end for Elon. He kind of got into it with Rubio in front of all the other agency heads. And Trump stayed basically neutral. He kind of watched them go at it, but eventually he did take Rubio's side. He said, Rubio's been doing a pretty good job. Rubio's very busy, and he wanted them to both get along. So he stayed neutral, but he did defend Rubio. So this is, I guess, Trump kind of reasserting himself a little, and which I like to see because I'm not really a fan of everything Elon's doing, and I'm no fan of Rubio's, but Elon has made me a fan of Rubio's. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, honestly, I couldn't have said it much better myself. Like, for the love of God, don't make me defend Marco Rubio. But, here I am about to, I don't have really a choice. I don't understand from the beginning, like, why is Elon Musk even there? Like, he has no real position within the government. Depending on who you ask. I mean, Trump did say in the State of the Union that he's the head of Doge, but then, like, for legal reasons, to kind of shield him from some of this blowback that might come back, they're like, oh, it's actually some random woman who you've never heard of, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
and this whole argument, if I'm not mistaken, it started because basically Marco Rubio is like, hey, I'm the Secretary of State. I run the State Department. You don't get to tell me how to run my department. All right, I'm the one that had to testify before Congress. And Elon Musk said like, "Hey, you're supposed to be slashing your flipping staff."
yeah,
And that's the
yeah.
whole argument. And got to be honest here, like you said, I'm kind of on Rubio's side a little bit, and it seemed like all the other cabinet people tended to agree like, yeah, like listen, we might like sort of be on your side like in terms of like Elon, like yeah, we want to reduce fraud, waste, abuse, whatever their phrase is, right? But like ultimately at the end of the day, like this is our agency, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like
And and these people, they didn't get there the easy way like Elon did, where Elon's just a special government employee, and yet he has just in like this insane unchecked power. They had to go through Senate confirmations, so they fought for this spot, and I imagine there's a lot of resentment building up amongst them. I can't imagine very many people are a big fan of his. He's certainly seems to be rubbing other people the wrong way, and it just makes me think about Trump's first term. We back when Bannon was kind of like the Elon, court philosopher, I don't know, figure, I don't know what you would call it, but he was an advisor to Trump, and well, after 7 months or so, he eventually butted heads with enough people that Trump just got rid of him. And to me, I will honestly be a little surprised if Elon makes it 7 months, because we are, 2 months in, and it's, oh my gosh, finally, there's been some pushback from Trump, but
yeah. And how far did Bannon make it? Did he make it 9 months? Is like he was fairly quick, wasn't he?
nope, just seven. Just seven. I
Just
looked it up
seven.
today because I was curious. I'm like, okay, Bannon, he's nowhere near as outrageous as Elon, outrageous as he may be sometimes. So for him to have made it only 7 months, I can't imagine Elon has seven in the tank. I mean, surely he will piss Trump off enough before then that he will get the boot. But maybe this is wish casting. I don't know. I'm kind of done with it.
Yeah, there's a couple of options I see here. I mean, this could go 50 different ways of sideways, I feel like. Like A, you could have like a scandal or a controversy that, Musk does that basically gets it to where like Trump's popular support diminishes, right? So like that
Oh
could
yeah.
happen, and then Trump will inevitably make him the scapegoat. Or B, he does something that like messes with Trump's base, right? So
Oh yeah.
whether that's
Yeah.
and Steve Bannon actually pointed this. I actually, Steve Bannon, you can say what you want, say he's crazy, say he's a little out there, right? But he's not dumb, I don't think, and I think that he at least has like a good like set of political calculus. And he's like, listen, if you guys cut Medicaid, like, do you understand how much of MAGA is on Medicaid and Social Security and Medicare? He's like, it'd be the dumbest thing you could do. Like, red states and conservative people are the most likely to be taking welfare, and you're gonna take it away from them. He's like,
Yeah.
He's like, you idiots, and yeah, and the idea, and this is like, I guess to circle back to like Rubio, the idea that these federal secretaries have basically been, they, like you said, they went through Congress, they had to take the ass chewing in front of everybody, and then just for some 23-year-old coder to slash 3,000 members of their staff, or, like,
Yeah.
so, that's as ridiculous as if some guy who has no idea about any of your work came into your work and decided, sorry, your job's no longer here. I've never met you. I mean, we're seeing a lot of this with the VA. I don't know if you've been following up on this, but like VA members have been like fired and like their boss didn't know, the owner of the hospital, or not the owner, the manager of the hospital didn't know.
So what do you do now?
So immediately following that, though, I called my immediate supervisor to let him know. I was like, hey, just letting you know, I know you're on vacation right now, but I just got fired. Immediately calls me back. He's like, what? Tell me, show me. And I called, next hire. Because again, like the Ann Arbor VA is an amazing place. We have great leadership. And like everybody was genuinely concerned and surprised because they're like, we had no idea.
Nobody in your direct chain of command knew you were being fired.
Nobody. The director of our hospital had no idea.
What does that tell you about the reasoning behind it?
It was arbitrary and it wasn't thought out and poorly executed. I think like it's become pretty obvious and how we've seen with other agencies and the people that were terminated, rehired, so terminated again.
Like no one in their direct chain of command knew that they were being fired, and this guy like still got fired. Like it's a pretty wild set of stories that's coming out. It's not like the idea that like these firings are taking place with like a deep level of thought is just not true. It's just arbitrary firing, you know?
Oh yeah. I really have just such hate for this, like, the Silicon Valley, like, philosophy of, like, move fast and break things. It's like we're talking about government, not some like stupid tech startup, like, uh we should within reason things should be, evaluated. And I don't know, but Trump did say, I believe it. Gosh, I don't. I think it was in a Truth Social post, but he said going forward they're going to use a scalpel, or he has advised Elon to use a scalpel rather than like an axe when tearing apart these agencies, or firing people, whatnot. So I think Trump has kind of learned his lesson that he needs to rein Elon in, and you know because I think there's enough pressure probably from within his administration to just get things under control. I can't imagine the people around him are loving Elon.
No, 100%. And I think another part of this too is that like Trump doesn't want to spend his political capital like having to defend Elon Musk. He wants to spend his political capital like passing legislation that's going to help his base before the midterms because he's trying not to lose Congress, you know?
Oh yeah.
The idea that like this is going to work out well for him. I mean, for God's sakes, there's a report that out of this cabinet meeting that, basically him and Rubio argued for like 15 or 20 minutes, just those two. And like if
Really?
you
It was at 15 to 20 on one?
yeah,
Holy crap.
so the entire cabinet's in there, and Rubio and them are talking, and basically Elon's like, "Well, you need to do better at cutting your staff," and he's like, "Well, 1,500 people took the buyout." He said, "Does that not count? Like, what if I rehired them and fired them?" And he's making, for the people who don't know, he's making a joke at the fact that Elon is having to fire people and then being like, "Oh, we can't fire these people. We need them." So he's having to rehire. So like if you don't know, like the nuclear like missile people, they got fired and they got rehired because the programmer didn't know.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
the people like the bird flu response team got fired because they're like, well, you're on probation. And it's like, yeah, we just started. Like, what do you mean? And I guess at some point, Sean Duffy, who's the transportation secretary, he joins in and he's like, well, like, I can 100% tell you it's arbitrary because one of your guys tried to fire air traffic controllers. And Elon Musk was like, BS, give me names. Who was fired? Who did my people tell you to fire? And he's like, no one was fired because I told them no. And he's like, are you serious? Like, you're going to tell me that this didn't happen? Like, I oversaw the conversation. And it's like, he's like, dude, I have like a huge amount of plane crashes that are happening with right now. I'm already understaffed, and you want me to fire air traffic controllers? He said, "Are you mad?" Like, I don't get it. Like, what's the gain here, Darren? Like, help me out.
Oh, I don't know. I honestly like people have like been theorizing that there's some like sinister like ploy at play or something, but I don't know. I think it's honestly just stupidity. Like I really think it is just stupidity because I mean I can kind of see like wanting to make government weak so that you can further your own agenda, but I mean, to me, I don't think Trump is fully on board with that. So it doesn't that conspiracy doesn't really make sense to me. And yeah, I and people say, well, Elon is like this anarcho-capitalist. That might be so, but I don't know. I just really think it's stupidity. I don't know if there's any like 4D chess. I don't think there's any like 4D chess, like grand vision going on. Uh, I mean, there is, a certain amount of self dealing that's going on by Elon. That's obvious. But, in terms of granting Tesla contracts and Starlink, getting contracts for, those businesses, I just think it's stupidity. And, another thing that I had thought of, not to monopolize the conversation, but something before the election that I could that this all reminded me of. Richard Spencer, he made this argument that Biden and Kamala are kind of like the conservative options, and it at first it might not make sense because what conservative, they're liberals, but they wouldn't do this. They wouldn't bring about radical change. They would just conservatively oversee the empire's decline. Like the empire's decline would not be accelerated in this fashion where we're just pissing off allies, we're you know m- you know making the government inefficient in an attempt to make it efficient. Uh, all this BS, it wouldn't be occurring had had Kamala won.
Yeah.
So
Well, and just to piggyback, sorry, off of what you said, like the idea that they're trying to create a more efficient government with all these firings, but like you said, there's a lot of like data coming out about this, specifically with the VA, that the firings, like there's no order to it. So like literally like people are showing up and they're like, "Hey, where's like Greg? He's supposed to be here today." And they're like, "Well, Greg got fired." And the boss is like, "What the hell?" So like that gap in administration is creating an inefficiency, right?
Hmm.
So it's actually like I would be shocked if at the end of the year if the deficit went down or I'm not convinced that with this savings in staff and with the savings and the cuts that they claim, which I don't know if you've looked into the cuts that they claim, it's mostly BS. Um,
That's what I've heard.
like they claimed for like ICE, they claimed that they saved the department $8 billion. And like just a quick Google search will tell you that their entire budget is $8 billion. So like, clearly that's not true. And then a further look, it's like, oh, it was actually 8 million. They just added three zeros because why not? But I mean, like you said, like this, goal to have a more efficient government is actually like the way they're going about it is radically deteriorating the government's ability to do anything at all. Like, which might also be the goal. I'm not entirely sure with this, tech-centered idea that they've got going on. But like you said, I mean, I can't help but feel like we're accelerating the decline. I mean, this is a government that's not even pretending to like legislate to fix problems. They're trying to get government out of fixing problems.
Oh yeah, I don't know. It's just infuriating all around the board. I mean, on one hand, I used to be a much bigger fan of Elon, and I definitely like that he purchased Twitter. I think Twitter is in a better place than where it was, in terms of, what my goals are. I mean, I think right now the current Twitter is better suited for helping me achieve those goals, and how I want society to look. But other than that, I'd prefer if just Elon left the public scene. I've grown very tired of him, but that's really all I have left to say on the on this matter.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll round off and then we can kind of move on a little bit, but I really don't get it. And like you said, I wonder if the American public is going to be dissatisfied with Elon or if they're going to have like a neutral view. Like maybe they're against Elon, but like they're still going to vote Republican in the midterms. Like, I mean, here's the deal. Like they've been interviewing some of these people and some of these people are like, they're like, yeah, I voted for Trump and I lost my job. But, there some of them are, rational enough to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna, vote Democrat. Like I obviously didn't vote for this. Like I work for the National Park Service. I didn't think that this is what they were gonna be cutting, right? And but then there's some people that are just, and they look about like how you'd imagine. They look a little, Republican and you know, and they're like, "Well, I'm still voting for him." And I'm like, "Okay, well, dig your own hole, I guess." It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I think Marco Rubio has, and again, don't make me defend Marco Rubio, but I think he at least understands like, hey, like when we're in government, like our position should be how are we going to wield power in a way that furthers our interest, Like, and you're kind of taking my ability to do that when you slash my staff without telling me. So like, please don't do that. That's all pretty much he said. Like he was like,
Hmm.
yeah, just let me do my job. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I so feel bad because Marco Rubio built up his entire career for this job, and he has to do it in this administration. He's like, oh God, he's like, I'm going to hell. I'm going this.
Yeah, imagine like spending so many decades like just grinding, just so you can get further up on the political ladder, only for you to be like, only for this like autistic guy to be totally in charge of you, and he doesn't even wear a suit. He just, wears a shirt around and
Yeah, this ketamine addict is running around telling like grown adults how to do their job. I mean, this is no different than if some total stranger off the street came to your job and was like, "Hey, here's how you need to do this. Here's how you need to do this." And it's like you can tell within the first 5 minutes this person has no idea how to do anything. Like they have no idea what they're talking about. And that's pretty obvious. Like when you hear Elon talk about pretty much anything related to the government, it's very clear he has no idea what he's talking about, for goodness sake. And that's like you said, that's not malice, that's stupidity.
oh yeah, I really do. I just, like I said, I just people have these bizarre, or well, not bizarre, but they have these elaborate conspiracy theories about what his ulterior motives might be. I'm like, I just think he's not as smart as we might think he, or at least not as competent, perhaps. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.